Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining our nightly news program live from Algiers. I'm your host, Karim Fazakri, with the latest updates from around the world. In tonight's top stories, President Tebboune announces Algeria has reached threshold of exporting $13 billion and orders the opening of new airlines with all African capitals and accelerate launching free zones with Mauritania, Mali, and Niger. The United Nations launches an alternative path to reach a comprehensive political settlement in Libya, and the State Council approves in principle a roadmap for holding elections. Also in our news, NATO heads towards adopting the first comprehensive defense plan since the end of the Cold War. Erdogan agrees to put Sweden's accession request to Parliament, and Russia vows to respond and warns of negative repercussions on its security. Also ahead, North Africa gripped by third consecutive day of extreme heat wave. Record temperatures exceeding 50 degrees Celsius spark concerns. Hello again and welcome to the details. First off in our news, Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune presided over the inaugural ceremony of the Honorary Medal for Export at the International Conference Center in Algiers. Themed Exports Beyond Hydrocarbons, Commitment, Achievements and Prospects, the event recognized top exporters in Algeria. President Tebboune awarded honorary medals to 13 exporters from various sectors, selected by a judging committee. Additionally, an accompanying body received recognition. 11 awards were presented across different categories, highlighting outstanding exporters while promoting Algeria's new policy to boost non-hydrocarbon exports. Algerian President, during a speech delivered on the occasion, announced the upcoming establishment of the Supreme Council for Exporters, emphasizing that Algeria is on the verge of reaching $13 billion in non-hydrocarbon exports.
طلب من السيد الوزير الأول باش في أقرب وقت يكون تنصيب نتاع المجلس الأعلى للمصدرين للتصدير اللي يتكفل هو بكل مشاكل تاع المصدرين والحوافز اللي نعطوها لهم والتسهيلات اللي تكون لهم. في سنة 2021 لما قلنا باش نوصل ل$5 ملايير، يعني بعض الأصوات سخرية، الجزائر ولات سخرية، خليهم يحلموا. وصلنا ل$5 ملايير الحمد لله، ومن بعد طلعنا السقف إلى 7 ملايير ورانا على وشك. وصلنا على 7 ملايير تاعنا، وصلنا ورانا على وشك تاع $13 مليار تصدير خارج المحروقات.
President Tebboune has also ordered the opening of new air routes with all African capitals, ensuring the support of Algeria's efforts to promote exports and enhance its economic presence on the continent.
في انتظار كذلك باش نفتح إن شاء الله خطوط جوية مع كل عواصم الهامة الإفريقية، لأن من العيب والعار أن جزائري باش يمشي لدكار يمر على باريس ولا يمر على، لازم اتصال مباشر. العاصمة الإفريقية هي أديس أبيبا، ما عندناش خط ليه، ما عندناش خط الكوت ديفوار، ما عندناش خط جوي مع دكار إلى آخره. الأمور هذه كل نغيرها إن شاء الله، بدأت تتغير ونكمل معها في سنة 2024 إن شاء الله، حتى تصبح الجزائر حقيقة إفريقيا، ما تدورش ظهرها لإفريقيا.
Algerian head of state has instructed the government to expedite the establishment of free zones with Mauritania, Mali, and Niger, specifically for agricultural products. Let's listen.
كذلك باش نفتح مناطق حرة، ونطلب من السيد وزير التجارة باش يسرعوا في العملية. مناطق حرة مع الدول المجاورة، بالأخص مع موريتانيا، مع مالي ومع النيجر. الدول هذه تربطنا معاهم تقاليد منذ استقلالنا منذ 1962 تحت تبادل حر في مواد يعني فلاحية بالأخص. اليوم باش نفتح الباب لكل مواد.
President Tebboune stated that Algeria has achieved remarkable macroeconomic progress, describing it as a miracle. This was made possible through a comprehensive and inclusive approach to economic development, improving the business environment and enhancing state sovereignty in political and economic decisions.
أمور رجعت نصابها لأن الجزائر أولاً دولة ما عندهاش مديونية، حرة في قراراتها السياسية والاقتصادية وغيرها، وقادرين نساعدوا الأشقاء نتاعنا في إفريقيا وغير إفريقيا. السياسة الجديدة اللي اندمجتم فيها وانتم مشكورين، بدأ التصدير تاعنا تدريجيا في تصاعد. تجاوزنا مرحلة 11% بالنسبة لسنة 2022، يعني معجزة، ما يقارب 5 مرات ما كنا نصدره منذ أكثر من 40 سنة. وبهذه الكيفية نكونوا دخلنا في مرحلة جديدة جدا، نبتعد عن اقتصاد الريع اللي مرتكز أساسا على الإنتاج النفطي، اللي هو يعني يجمد الأدمغة، ما تبقاش مبادرة، بقى روح الاتكال على سعر البرميل وقيمة البرميل وسوق النفط في العالم إلى آخره. دخلنا في سياسة نتاع ابتكار.
To other news now, UN Secretary of State Antony Blinken has invited Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf for a working visit to Washington. The visit aims to hold the 6th session of the Algerian-American Strategic Dialogue, assess multi-dimensional cooperation and discuss regional security, counter-terrorism, economic partnership, culture and education. Algeria and Jordan have signed 18 agreements, memoranda of understanding and executive programs, marking the conclusion of the 9th session of the Joint Committee. A statement from the Algerian Ministry of Industry and Pharmaceutical Production clarified that the agreements, memoranda and programs cover areas of industry, trade, tourism, traditional industries, labor, social security, as well as transportation, archives, culture, higher education and scientific research. Algeria's Sonatrach has delivered the inaugural LNG shipment to Eni in Italy from its new floating terminal on the western coast. The estimated 19 million cubic meters of LNG were handed over last Friday for processing in Pimboino, Italy. This marks the official start of commercial operations for the new facility following the completion of the trial phase. In the same context, Sonatrach's president and CEO Tawfiq Hakkar criticized the hasty and ill-considered global energy transition and warned of various or serious economic repercussions from the long-term reduction in fossil fuel investments. Zara Farjani reports.
The president and general manager of the Algerian Sonatrach Group underscored that shifting towards renewable energies is a premature energy transition aim the world is not prepared for yet. This trail, according to him, is hasty and reckless, likely to trouble many producing countries, leading to strong shocks in fuel prices and fluctuations in the energy market.
The energy transition in the world has not been well evaluated and studied as it should be, and rushing into this path carries dire consequences on prices for Sonatrach. We believe that gas is the future. This is what international statistics and data say, and this was stated by the chief executives of the major energy companies, Exxon, Mobil, BP and Total. They all agree that there is an important future for natural gas.
Sonatrach CEO pleaded that fossil fuels remains an important guarantor of energy security in the world, saying instead of abandoning them, improving their efficiency to meet environmental obligations is required.
Why did the price of gas reach a high level? We did not see this during the past 20 or 30 years. This is a direct answer to those convictions of those who are waiting for a major development of new and renewable energy. Today, the world still needs fossil energies until the year 2050, but we must agree, producers or consumers, that we must reduce the carbon footprint of this production.
In an energy-hungry world, transition to cleaner sources is facing major challenges, notably including production costs, demands, marketing, and job transfer. These are all the factors that still favor fossil energy in the future. Hence, achieving zero emissions is a far-fetched dream. Yet again, finding cleaner and more efficient uses is workable still.
European Commissioner for the Environment, Virginia Sinkevicius, acknowledged the challenges of extending the fishing agreement with Morocco, which covers products from occupied Western Sahara. Speaking at the ongoing Summit of Environment Ministers in Spain, the Commissioner emphasized that while the Union prioritizes renewing the agreement, the European Commission currently has no alternative solutions except to await a judicial decision.
We are in this difficult situation as regards Morocco because of the court decision, and this of course complicates the situation overall. We have a constant dialogue. It's of course our priority to have an extension, but with the court's decision currently in the loop, this kind of complicates situation. So we of course want to complete it as soon as possible, but first we need a clarification from the court's decision.
Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez was perceived as weak in a televised debate against his opponent, Alberto Núñez Feijóo, the leader of the opposition, that is. The Spanish press criticized Sánchez's turbulent performance and viewed it as a missed opportunity for his re-election. Sánchez struggled to respond to accusations, particularly regarding his disregard for international legitimacy in Western Sahara. Núñez pledged to rectify this position if he were to win the July 23rd elections.
Eliminando las concejalías de igualdad al equilibrio entre Argelia, el pueblo saharaui, Marruecos.
The position must return to the policy of balance between Algeria, the Sahrawi people, Morocco and Spain. This is the line that we have always adopted, yes, until you changed it. With regard to foreign policy, what you have done is a set of contradictions and incomprehensible decisions.
Intense clashes occurred in different areas of Sudan's capital, Khartoum, on Tuesday. The army targeted positions held by the Rapid Support Forces with artillery shells. The Sudanese armed forces conducted sweeps in residential areas of Omdurman after heavy armed confrontations involving various weapons. Reports suggest renewed clashes in different parts of the city, with explosions and gunfire heard near a bridge in northern Khartoum, Bahri. UN envoy to Libya called on all Libyan stakeholders to make sure to follow the right path and avoid any actions that could divert the attention from the common goal in order to launch elections as soon as possible. Here's Salman Asib with more.
UN envoy to Libya, Abdoulaye Bathily, has always urged all Libyan society to discuss a pathway to successful and credible elections in a secure environment. On Tuesday, Bathily has renewed calls on all Libyan stakeholders to refrain from any actions, including unilateral or non-inclusive decisions, that could precipitate a crisis and divert attention from Libya's common goal.
UNSME recognizes the efforts of the 6+6 committee as an important step forward. However, the mission has pointed out that the draft electoral laws in their current state would not enable successful elections. Further work is needed to make the draft laws implementable by addressing the legal loopholes and technical shortcomings identified by the High National Elections Commission.
Bathily also informed the Security Council of his intention to convene key Libyan institutions and stakeholders or their trusted representatives to reach, through inclusive negotiations and compromise, a final settlement on the most contentious issues before the elections begin.
Libyan institutions and key stakeholders also need to reach an inclusive political settlement on the main politically contested issues identified in my briefing to the Security Council on 19 June, such as the eligibility criteria for candidates for the presidential election, the provision for a mandatory second round for the presidential election, and the requirement to establish a new interim government before elections can take place.
For its part, the Libyan High Council of State, during a Senate on Tuesday, adopted a roadmap calling for holding elections 240 days after the approval of electoral laws, according to a local lawmaker.
The roadmap adopted by the Tripoli Basis Chamber calls for the formation of a unified government to implement the electoral process. It also provides for holding the polls 240 days after the passage of electoral laws.
It's important to note that Libya's elections were slated for December 2021, but differences between political rivals over who should stand at the polls and other issues prevented the vote from being held.
To a different story, North African countries are experiencing a severe heat wave for the third consecutive day, leading to record-breaking temperatures exceeding 50 degrees Celsius. The United Nations has issued warnings about the possibility of deadly heat waves due to the increasing impact of climate change on weather patterns, occurring 30 times more frequently in the current year. Protests have erupted throughout the Zionist entity in response to the Netanyahu government's attempt to pass judicial reform amendments. Videos circulating on social media have shown violent clashes between the occupying police and demonstrators. In a separate development, around 300 reserve soldiers announced their refusal to volunteer for military service in protest against the Knesset decision. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg announced the adoption of NATO's largest defense plan since the Cold War at the Vilnius summit. The plan, aimed at countering Russia's security threats, involves placing 300,000 soldiers on standby, as stated by Stoltenberg during a press conference in the Lithuanian capital. More details with Sofia Kinturi.
NATO leaders gathered for a meeting on the first day of the summit in Vilnius on Tuesday, seeking to overcome divisions on Ukraine's membership bid after a deal to lift Turkey's block on Sweden, joining the military alliance. The summit in the Lithuanian capital will be dominated by repercussions of Russia's military operation in Ukraine, with leaders set to approve NATO's first comprehensive plans since the end of the Cold War to defend its members' territories.
Allies have also approved the most comprehensive defense plans since the end of the Cold War. These are designed to counter the two main threats we face, Russia and terrorism. Under our new plans, NATO aims to have 300,000 troops at high readiness, including substantial air and naval power.
Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said that the Allies will accelerate Ukraine's accession to the alliance by agreeing to remove the requirements of a membership action plan for Ukraine.
All put together, including that we make clear that Ukraine will become a member, we remove the membership action plan, we make their forces interoperable with NATO forces, we establish a NATO-Ukraine Council. All that together will send a very strong and positive message from NATO to Ukraine. All of us.
Stoltenberg also said that the decision by the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is a significant move towards Sweden's membership, and it will alleviate tension in Vilnius. The deal was reached after days of intensive meetings, and it's poised to expand the alliance strength in Northern Europe.
Following the agreement yesterday, we will soon also be welcoming Sweden as a full-fledged member. So welcome to you.
In response, Moscow says it would be closely following decisions made by leaders at two-day meeting and warned measures would be taken in response aimed at ensuring the country's security.
In the same context, Russia warned of negative repercussions on its national security due to Sweden's expected NATO accession. Dmitry Peskov, the Russian presidency spokesperson, mentioned a similar response as with Finland's accession. He downplayed Turkey's change of stance and emphasized Russia's awareness of this situation, noting common interests and differences between Russia and Turkey. Foreign Minister for his part, Sergei Lavrov, confirmed that appropriate measures will be taken in response to potential NATO membership for Sweden and Ukraine without disclosing details. For more stories making headlines around the globe, here's the news in brief by Usama Ayadi this time.
Authorities in Nepal have retrieved the bodies of 6 people killed in a helicopter crash on Tuesday, including 5 Mexican nationals. The cause of the crash near Liku region was not yet known, while the government would set up a committee to investigate.
There were 5 foreign nationals in the helicopter. All of them were Mexican citizens. These people went on a mountain flight yesterday.
Ukrainian soldiers stationed near Bakhmut announced on Monday that they are successfully pushing back Russian attacks in the area around the shattered eastern city, where Ukraine has been gaining ground as part of their counteroffensive.
We are working in this area, and we are successfully pushing back the enemy. We destroyed enemy's firing positions, ammunition depots. We inflicted losses on the enemy in the past 2 weeks.
2 people were killed and 2 others are missing after a landslide hit a village in northwest China's Gansu province on Monday. The disaster has also left 7 people injured, according to the Provincial Emergency Management Department. Several Russian attacks have been reported on Kyiv with drones early on Tuesday. No casualties were reported in the capital, but Ukraine's military informed that fallen debris had damaged a number of houses in the region after the drones were shot down. North Korea accused the United States on Monday of violating its airspace by conducting surveillance flights and warned that such flights may be shot down. North Korean officials described the military action as provocative, and they would bring the Korean peninsula closer to a nuclear conflict.
In a lighter note, frequent power outages in Gaza have pushed residents to rely on firewood for operating their workshops and bakeries. With over 2.3 million people enduring a 15-year blockade, the besieged territory receives a mere 6 hours of electricity daily due to fuel shortages for the Seoul power plant. The details with Islam Said.
This is Sami Auda opening his bakery in Rafah in the early morning. He receives his clients bringing with them prepared dough to bake it in his firewood oven, which has been in his family for generations.
We have been operating for a long time, since the days of my parents and grandparents. They used to work with a large number of workers. People in their time were happy and in good condition, and their living standards were excellent. People used to bring their own dishes and stews, and they loved bread and everything else. Every day people come to me with food to be cooked in the oven and wait for their turn, because it is better than modern automated bakeries, better than gas, and better than electricity.
Hours-long power cut in the Gaza Strip in Rafah, and residents' inability to afford gas cookers obliged some of them to resort to a firewood oven at Auda's bakery.
I go to Abu Hasib's bakery because electricity cuts off for 12 hours and only comes back for 6 hours. Therefore, when we prepare the dough and divide it, we don't have enough time for that. Due to the electricity cuts and the high temperature, the dough gets spoiled. That's why I take it to Abu Hasib's bakery.
Customers say charcoal and wood are more readily available than electric or gas stoves, and are easier to use for baking than their modern counterparts.
In the midst of the difficult circumstances we're going through, we find this oven to be more economical, faster and easier than generators, because dealing with generators is difficult and electricity cuts off for long hours. Similarly, cooking gas is scarce, so the opportunity to bake using wood and charcoal, which yes, they gather with effort and hardship, is more beneficial and readily available.
Because of this difficult situation people are facing today, some women are forced to come to us and bake their bread because electricity is problematic when baking at home. The bread comes out in poor shape. However, here, the flavor provided by baking in this old oven is completely different. 100% different.
Amid the strangling siege Gazans are struggling with, homes and businesses in Gaza rely on generators and solar panels to compensate for power outages, adding to the financial strain on the region's predominantly poor population.
The end of our nightly news program. For more latest updates, visit our social media platforms. Thank you for watching and join us again tomorrow for more news and insights. Good night.